Hey everyone, it's Maria, and today I'm doing my first ever Booktube Discussion Tag. And if you don't know what that is, it's because it's new, and I actually did another video on it that I will link down below explaining the concept behind it. I hope more people decide to do videos like this based on books that they really enjoyed, because I think it's a really fun idea. So basically, I am going to talk about Blood for Blood and Wolf by Wolf. And in talking about it, I'm not going to give away any spoilers. So if you haven't read it, I think it's probably okay. I'm going to be talking about some just basic things from the overall universe. A little synopsis of this duo. It's by Ryan Graudin, and it is basically a hypothetical what if World War II had gone differently and the Nazis had won. Yael is the main character, and she is a Jewish girl who had gone under some Nazi experiments, and because of that she can shapeshift into different people. In the first book, she is assigned to shapeshift into the victor of a previous motorcycle cross-continent race that they do every year to celebrate their Nazi victory, and then she is supposed to assassinate Hitler. That's not a spoiler, it's on the front cap. Blood for Blood is the follow-up to that and kind of the end of what happens with all of that. So I thought it was a really interesting duo of a book. It is technically YA, although I think anybody, even non-YA readers, would enjoy it. So the things that I will talk about kind of are just personal experiences, memories, ideas, things that I kind of took away from the book, things that if I were in a book club discussion, I would probably use as my answers to some of these questions. So if you have read Wolf by Wolf or Blood for Blood and want to do this Booktube discussion tag, I tag you. You can use these questions. You could add some of your own if you would like. And then, yeah, let's spread this around Booktube and see if we can make a thing of it. If there are other books that you want to do this concept with, please take this idea and run with it, because I think it'd be really a cool thing to do. The first question that I wanted to ask are, what are the wolves in your life? Now, this question I actually got from Krista from Books and Jams when she read Wolf by Wolf. She talked about the people who represent the wolves that have changed her. In this duo, Yael, the main character, has 5 wolves tattooed on her arm to symbolize people that have made her who she is. And I think all of us kind of carry those people around with us in our heads, whether they're on tattoos or not. So for me, first up obviously would be my mom. She not only gave birth to me, but she pretty much taught me how to live with generosity. She gave me a lot of passion for art and history and traveling and good food, which I think is a very important part of who I am. And she really showed me that there are lots of different ways to live your life, and you can always change what you want from life. So that would be the first one. The second wolf that I am going to choose is my husband, because not for just the whole, oh, he makes me a different person, or makes me better, because he does. He's my exact opposite in a lot of ways. But for me, he was the first person who kind of showed me that I was more than what I could give back to them. What I mean by that is, before him, I was in a lot of relationships that made me feel like I had to be a certain person for that person. I really felt like I had to live up to some sort of standard. I don't know. I didn't really think I was worthy of love, and I don't really understand where that came from at all. But he was the first person who I really feel like took me and said, yeah, you're not perfect, but I'm going to take all of you the way you are. And yeah, I'm with you to the end. And I think that's a really strong thing to internalize. So for that, and he's also the first person who really made me question everything. So that's a big part of me. The third person, or book, actually, this one's a book, is Brian McLaren and his New Kind of Christian. I actually have it over there on a shelf, but I'm not going to grab it. New Kind of Christian. For me, my faith is very important, but this book showed me that there are lots of different ways you can be a person of faith, and you don't have to have all the answers. Actually, having all the answers doesn't make you a person of faith. It just means that you aren't continuing to grow. And for me, that's really important. So I really appreciate that spark that started in my head, because that still continues today because of that book. And the fourth thing or person that I wanted to kind of give wolf status to is my sociology and human sexuality teacher from college. She was phenomenal. She's one of those teachers that you'll never forget. Several people still stay in contact with her online just because she's just an amazing person. She challenged a lot of my assumptions about social dynamics, the world, sexuality, and more than anything, I really appreciate her because after a paper I did, she wrote and said, this isn't something that you need to just get over. This is something that maybe you need to go to counseling and therapy for. And for that, I will always be grateful to her because it takes a lot sometimes to say, no, like you're better than this, and you were hurt and you need to maybe heal from that. So therapy is important. I think everybody should do it at least once in their life because we all have stuff we have to get over. And I really appreciate her kind of pushing me in that general direction and making sure that I got a good therapist. So, second question, which historical event do you wonder about if it had been different, would it make the world different? And in this, of course, Wolf by Wolf, it is the World War II ended differently. I think it would be interesting to see a book about, or even just go back in time, what if the American Revolution had turned out differently? We're starting to study that in our homeschool with my kids, and I just constantly think about how much our founding fathers and mothers put on the line saying, I think this revolution can work, because it wouldn't have gone very well if had it gone differently. So I think it would be interesting to see what would happen if America had not become America and had stayed under British rule. Would colonization still have worked out the same way? Would it have expanded? How would our ideals in this part of the world be different? I don't know. I just think it would be an interesting thing. The third question, Yael was a skin shifter or a shape changer. Who would you want to impersonate and why? So I had several options, and I don't know. So the first person that I think would be fun to impersonate, not to get things to change, but because I would really want to know what it was like to be in her skin, was Mother Teresa. I think it would be really interesting to see what her thought process was like when she was serving those people, how she navigated through hardships. I think I could learn a lot from that. I also think it would be really interesting because I have a hunch that just like when you're younger and you think you'll be different when you're older, I think she's probably just a regular person. And it would be interesting to just internalize the fact that regular people can do really amazing things. So yes, I know she's dead, but I think that would be really cool. The other person that I think it would be interesting to impersonate would be Donald Trump, because I would really love, number one, to know what people around them are thinking, how they're interacting. And I think it would be great because then you could hypothetically change some of the decision that is happening in the White House. So those are my answers for that. The next question, Yael had a hard time holding on to her identity because she couldn't remember who she was at the beginning. And when you're changing how you look all the time, it's hard to even keep your identity to yourself. So what physical reminders do you have in your life, whether they're on your body or not, to remind you who you are? And for this, I have a couple. So the first one is actually a bracelet. It says choose well on it because I want to make good choices. And so I made that I had it made with that inscription. So I would hopefully make the best choice at the time. The next one is a bracelet from my mom, and it's got a Vincent van Gogh quote on it. It says, I feel that there is nothing more truly artistic than to love people. That's it. I didn't want to get that wrong. And for me, art is very important. Beauty is important. But loving is the ultimate beauty for me. And I constantly need to remind myself that how I act to other people is really what makes me a beautiful person. And yeah, to see, and I love the whole idea of artistic creativity and love being important for each other, because I think sometimes you have to be very creative to figure out how to love somebody well. And I like to kind of think of it as a creative project instead of a challenge sometimes. And the third thing is actually, it's a shadow box. My husband and I made this list on our 10-year wedding anniversary, and it is a list of the years since our 10-year anniversary, our kids' initials, how old they will be in each year, and different places that we want to go with them on vacation to. So this, for me, every time I see this, reminds me that time's going very fast and that I have to be very intentional about what I want to accomplish with my children. For me, it's much more than a plan. It is a chart almost of how quickly time's flying. So those are my physical wolves in my life. And the next question is, several of the characters had to make choices about loyalties and sacrifices. What decision-making tools or techniques are your favorites? And I'm going to give you two. So if you have a very difficult decision to make, what has worked for me is to kind of, especially when you're disagreeing with somebody who's significant, for instance, your spouse or your partner, we have kind of talked about what it would look like if we went with decision A and then kind of lived with that for a few days. What were the pros, cons? Just pretend in your head like you've chosen choice A. And then after that, pretend like you're choosing choice B. And then talk about the differences between that. I think when you can get somebody over to the same viewpoint for a little bit, even if it's just to pretend for a while, you can make a lot more headway than if you're constantly just using it as a debate. So that's my favorite technique, which honestly is so important, is the only thing that we use to try and finally make our homeschool decision after a decade, literally a decade of debating it. The second thing is, if it's really just a silly decision that it doesn't matter. I have decision fatigue a lot. I'm tired of making decisions. So rock, paper, scissors, or a random number generator is just fine. We figured out where we were going on our honeymoon when we got married by using rock, paper, scissors, because we figured either way it was going to be fun. So those are my favorites for that. And I think those are just the only questions I'm going to put in this first book discussion tag. If you have questions you want to add to this whenever you do this tag, go ahead and do that. If you feel like this is a good book you want to pick up Wolf by Wolf first, because it'll make more sense. But I intend on doing more of these Booktube discussion tags. I'm not necessarily going to tag you in them, but if you see a book come up that you find interesting and you want to do those questions, take it and run with it. If there's another book that you would like to do these kinds of questions with, I would love to see that. And tag me in it or link below, send me a message so I know to check those out. So I will talk to you all later. Have a great day. Bye.